Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the post-council meeting news conference. We do this after every meeting of the Marshfield Common Council. As I'm taping this, it's December 15th, and we just had a meeting last night on Tuesday, December 14th. I'm going to bring you some of the highlights, what was discussed, what was determined, and where those items will be going forward, and maybe just a little bit here to wrap up the year end as we get near the end of 2021. Well, it was a light agenda last night. But here's some of the items. First of all, under staff updates, we had a number of employee issues that we brought up. The first couple were introducing new employees. Stephen Wiley is our new city planner. I may have mentioned this before, but he comes to us from the city of Oshkosh, where he'd been working previously in the planning department. He's got some great skills and experience. I've been excited to get to know Stephen a little bit in the last couple of weeks. So Josh Miller introduced him. He is our city planner and will be involved actively in not only plan commission meetings, but also council meetings on items like rezonings, conditional use permits, and those types of things. Also, Melissa Schmidt is joining us. She is a new part-time employee in the city's finance department. And Jennifer Selensky, our acting finance director, highlighted her background a little bit. Glad to have her on board with us here at City Hall. And then finally, we kind of said goodbye, I guess, to Scott Owen, who's worked for 25 years for the city of Marshfield's fire department, did an outstanding job. He spent the last several years as the fire chief, but his career, as I said, goes back to 1996. So he made some comments thanking people, the council, the staff, and others for all the great teamwork over the years and all the things that have been accomplished. And Pete Fletty, the acting fire chief, actually came up as well and made a few comments on behalf of Scott too, and thanking him for all his hard efforts and for helping him get ready to take on the role now as acting fire chief as Scott walks out the door. So thank you, Scott, and we wish you all the best in your retirement. We had a consent agenda that was comprised of a lot of items that came from the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee and the Board of Public Works. I think we've talked about this before. These are items that have come through the committee system. They've been seen by half the council, and they can be approved with one motion and no discussion. And that did happen again with this last meeting. So I want to touch on a couple of them, not all of them, but at least a few of the noteworthy ones. The council did approve allowing staff to go out for proposals for the Adler Road Trail project. And this is going to be that part of the trail along the south side of Adler from Sycamore to the Weber Park area. And I think we've discussed this before on some programs here in the past, that we're really trying hard to connect our trail system. People love our trails. They love biking and walking, and they really appreciate the opportunities that our trail system provides. But we try to connect where we can when we get opportunities. This one was where we really got lucky. We were able to get a grant from a higher level of government that allows us to pay only a portion of the cost. I believe about 2/3 of the cost of this improvement is being borne by a grant, and the city's only paying the remaining third, roughly. So we look forward to that project taking place in 2022. But what we're doing right now is for someone to help us with the design this winter and into the early spring so that we're able to move that project forward in 2020-22. Also, another item was the special assessment that was approved for East 17th Street. I think we've talked about this before, that we're all excited to get East 17th Street reconstructed from Maple to Peach over there by the fairgrounds. That project's been on the docket for quite some time. We had a little bit of an issue maybe a month or two ago where we were talking about the scope of the project. We did agree to add some improvements on the Central Wisconsin State Fair Board property. It made sense to kind of commingle those in and get them all to be part of our project, get a better bid. And of course, they'll be assessed their portion of that they would have had to pay otherwise. So, but that project is a 2022 project. It's our big one really for the coming year in the Engineering and Public Works Department. And we'll be excited to see that one take shape here as we go in the coming months. Those are both out of the Board of Public Works from when they met on December 6th. The Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee met on December 7th. And there were a number of items, but I'll just touch on a couple of them. A couple involve the wastewater department. Sam Warp has decided to retire. His last working day is January 7th. And so we are thankful to Sam for all the great work he's done. But the council is looking, or did I should say, authorize us to refill that position. So we'll be posting it out there, looking for good candidates, and hopefully get someone quality to replace Sam Warp. Again, his 10-year career here with the city of Marshfield was outstanding. Some of the work he did in terms of the operations, new creative ways to deal with problems, and also the financial aspect has just been outstanding. So thanks, Sam, and we wish you all the best. Meanwhile, another item on the committee's agenda that was blessed by the council was appointing Mark Kivela who has been the assistant wastewater superintendent for 21 years. He's been doing that job under both Ron Dickrell, the predecessor of Sam Warp, and then Sam himself. So he will be taking on the reins for, probably 60 to 90 days, however long it takes for us to find a new wastewater superintendent. We're thankful for the great work Mark does, and I'm sure we'll be in good hands as we head into the first part of 2022. Other items that were approved, the council did approve combining 3 part-time positions into 1 full-time position for the library. Phil Porter, our excellent library director, had brought this forward. It's hard to get and keep good people when you're working 10 hours, 12 hours, those kind of things. And the thought was, look, if we can combine these into 1 person and get a good, good job with benefits and all that kind of stuff, get somebody on board, they're more likely to stay longer. We're likely to get, better candidates for a full-time job. So that's been approved, and we'll be looking for an individual soon for that position. A couple of other things. The professional service agreement has been approved now to move forward on the West 2nd Street corridor project. Again, this is phase 3 of the corridor. This would be west of Chestnut over toward the Stephen J. Miller Park area. Vanderwall Associates out of the Madison area is on board with us. They'll be working as we get into early 2022 with Josh Miller, our Development Services Director, the outstanding committee we put together, and that's made up of staff members, council members, and I think some private citizens, people who are involved in the community. And they've been working with Josh in terms of trying to get this project off the ground. We're very excited about trying to see what's possible west of Chestnut Street in the downtown area. And Vanderwall is a quality consultant, so we look forward to them being on board with us as well. And then finally, under Finance, Budget, and Personnel, the council did approve authorizing me to sign a contract with Groda. Groda's been our assessing firm for the past 3.5 years. They took over after Joan Spencer, our longtime city assessor, a staff person, resigned back in 2017. Groda no longer wishes to stay with the city. It's a little far from their headquarters back in Menominee Falls, down in the Milwaukee area. But we have an ongoing case, I think we've discussed before, with the clinic, where they're looking to get tax exempt status on 2 parcels, the one where the east wing sits and the one where the main clinic building is located. And the city is not in agreement with them at this time, so we're headed toward possible litigation. And we need the current city assessor, Jim Toth, from Groda, to help us. He's got a lot of background, he's gathered a lot of materials, has a lot of knowledge, and we need someone to work with our legal counsel in terms of preparing that case. And so we do have an agreement signed with Groda now, or will be signing it based on council approval, that will allow us on a time and materials basis to use Jim Toth and his background, his knowledge, and his understanding of this case in working with our legal counsel. So we're thankful to Groda for working this out with us, and we look forward to having Jim's assistance on that case. I will tell you, as kind of a preview of upcoming events, the agenda for the 21st, this coming Tuesday, is pretty light, as well as we're just wrapping up some year-end things. But one of the items will be to approve an agreement with a new city assessor, and it will be Forward Appraisal out of Green Bay. Even though they're located over there in Green Bay, they are currently the city assessor for both Stevens Point and Wisconsin Rapids. Have great regard from those communities. I know I did the reference checks myself, and they are very highly regarded by those 2 cities around us, and so we feel good about having them come on board. It's a 2-year contract that we'll be hopefully approving with Forward on December 21st. Getting into the main agenda items, there were very few. One of them was a second reading and approval of an ordinance that does some rezoning for a property over by Walmart, actually just behind Walmart. We may have talked about this before, but we've been trying to get more multifamily housing over there. There have been some nice projects, some good apartments built east and northeast of Walmart along the McMillan Street area. This is one where the Swiderski company had been trying to work on some plans. The property had been zoned community mixed use. Nothing came together. They were running out of time to meet the deadline for getting some building going out there. They asked for an extension, which the city granted, because what we want to see is the development. We understand it's been a tough time lately in the past couple of years for a lot of reasons, including COVID. But anyway, that extension's been given, and now we have agreed to rezone the property to MR24. What MR24 is, it allows a higher density of residential, and they have some plans they're going to be working on. We look forward to seeing these come forward to the Plan Commission and ultimately to the council in the weeks and months ahead. Swiderski is a fine company. They do good work. And again, that'll be more housing opportunities for our citizens. We're trying to improve the housing stock here in all areas. We've made some inroads in the multifamily area with apartments. As you know, we're working on not only the Daniels addition, but also some housing in the southeast part of town with that new TIF District 13, the multi-use, mixed-use TIF district. And so we want to get opportunities for people who want to live in our community, whether they want single-family, duplex, they want to be renting in good apartments. And this Swiderski development will be, when it comes together, will be a good addition as well to that mix. Also did was kind of routine business, but every 2 years we need to approve a slate of election inspectors. And I probably talked about this a little bit lately because we're moving into the election season. I'll mention more about that in a second. But we approved a slate of election inspectors and special voting deputies for the next 2 years, for calendar years 2022 and 2023. And these people are so important. Again, I think we sometimes take them for granted. You go to vote, you check in, you know, they make sure that you're in the right district, they have you sign your name and all those kind of things, and you vote and you go home or go to work. But these people work tirelessly on those days, oftentimes from very early in the morning till very late at night. And we're thankful for people who are willing to serve our community in that way. And so we did approve that slate of inspectors for the next 2 years, and we thank them for their willingness to serve in that capacity. The final 2 items on the agenda were related to our taxi service. The council did agree to sign on for another year with Running Incorporated out of Iroquois. This will be the 4th year in the 5 years. Again, it's kind of confusing. If you were with us back 3 years ago, you're probably thinking, oh, wait a minute, I think that the city signed a 5-year agreement to have Running as its taxi provider, right? Why are you talking about approving, you know, a contract for 2022? But again, DOT allows us to sign on with somebody for 5 years, but every single year still needs to have a separate individual contract for that calendar year. And that allows the city to do some review, make sure everything's going well. Are there any problems or concerns that aren't being addressed well? And so the council did agree to sign on for the 4th of this 5-year term with Running, so they will be our taxi provider for the shared ride service for calendar year 2022. Before they actually voted for that, one of our council members, Rebecca Spiros, had asked that we flip-flop 2 items on the agenda. It was going to be to approve the taxi contract and then get an update on how the service is running. And she made a good observation that maybe the update should be first in case there were any problems that, you know, ought to be discussed as part of the consideration of the vote to have the contract for 2022. So I gave some information financially and how we handle complaints to the council. And Justin Running from Running Incorporated was there, and he came up to talk a little bit about what the service has been doing, what some of the challenges are. We discussed COVID a little bit. You know, ridership has been down the last couple of years because of COVID, in part because people are a little bit more, you know, skeptical of riding in a cab. They're trying to protect their health, but also because for a lot of that time, we've only been allowing one person to be one rider in the cab at a time. It's a shared ride service. So oftentimes we have 2 riders in the cab going different places at the same time. But to try and keep people separated for social distancing purposes, they, for a lot of the time that we've been in this pandemic, have been allowing only one passenger to be in the vehicle at a time. The other thing is that, you know, because people have kind of drawn in a little bit, they're not making quite as many trips. They still need to go to the doctor. They still need to get groceries, but the ridership is down a little bit in general. And so that's affected us. We see some good signs that it's coming back now. Hopefully we're winding our way down in the pandemic. I know it's not over. I know we have the new variant, but you know, we're looking forward to better times. And I think that the cab has done a good job of guiding us through this period as best they can. So again, ultimately the council did vote unanimously, I believe it was, to sign on for another year with Running. As we get closer to toward the end of 2023, we'll be doing a request for proposals for a new 5-year term. And I think the last time we did it, we had maybe 4 companies that put their applications in. There are other providers, so we'll see what happens when that time comes. The only other item of note from the council meeting was at the very end. I believe it was Adam Fisher, one of our council members, brought up under items for future agendas that he'd like to see us discuss how many meetings are covered by the communications staff. Tom Laux and hopefully his soon-to-be new assistant when we get someone else hired. We have a lot of committees, boards, and commissions. We talk about them often and the great work that they do. Right now, what's covered on the local cable TV 991 and also put on YouTube Live is really just a certain subset of that group. Council, Finance, Budget and Personnel Committee, Board of Public Works, Plan Commission, a couple of others, but we have a lot that aren't on. So what's being asked is, should we be looking at putting more of those meetings on the air, so to speak, recording them for people to view? That brings up a few questions, one of which is staffing availability, because we you know, our small department, our communications department is, and they've got a lot of stuff they work on. Also, some logistical issues about the fact that not all these meetings occur at City Hall. Some of them are in remote sites, other buildings. So we'll take a look at it, bring back a report to the council in the next few weeks. If we don't bring it back on the 21st, it will more likely be on the 12th of January, and get some discussion about, you know, where to take that. The other item brought up under items for future agendas was by Councilmember Pete Hendler. He asked for an update on the status of this discussions with the clinic and what's going on with that tax case that I mentioned earlier. So I'll be putting that on for the 21st of December, just to kind of let them know what the latest is in terms of some of the conversations going on between legal counsel and others. I can't really talk about that right now, but again, I do want people to know that the relationship between the city and the clinic is amiable. We've had a couple of other good meetings recently about how we can better communicate with each other and cooperate where possible. So it's not a matter of we're at war with each other. We just have different interests and have different views of the current you know, claim that they've made. So I'll be giving council an update in closed session on the 21st about what's happening and where that might be going in the months ahead. I want to kind of conclude this edition of the post-council meeting news conference by thanking all of you for your involvement. You know, many of you who see this probably have contacted somebody in the council, maybe come to a meeting, maybe sent us an email or a letter. I want to continue to encourage you to do that. We don't have all the answers. This room I'm sitting in here, these folks do a great job. Our council is outstanding, and but they can use the eyes and ears of the public and the ideas, and the questions and concerns that come from you are priceless to us. We want to see more of that in 2022. Tom Laux and his staff are going to be working on trying to get the word out even more effectively about what we're doing, what we're discussing, and what some of the possibilities are. And without your input and feedback, we aren't going to be what we should be in this community. So I want to thank you, and I want to challenge you to be even more involved in the coming year in your local government. I also want to wish all of you the best Christmas and New Year's season that you can have. Like I said, the pandemic has made things a little bit more challenging in the last couple of years, but I wish you all a great time with family and friends, and stay safe and healthy. And I look forward to reconnecting on our next program in early January. I want to end with one more thing that I mentioned, or forgot to mention earlier. We are still taking applications, so to speak. That's not maybe the right word, but for people who want to be on council or want to run for mayor, the deadline for filing is Tuesday, January 4th at the end of the day. Now, again, I want to say this to you, that the deadline doesn't mean you walk in on that day and say, hey, I want to be on council, or I want to run for mayor. You've got to get the paperwork, fill it out. You've got to get the proper number of signatures turned back into the city clerk's office. So if you are interested at all, please contact Deb Hall, our city clerk, and talk to her about what's involved with that. But if you are thinking about running for mayor or council in one of the odd numbered council districts, those are the 5 that are up this coming year, don't wait much longer. You really have to go through some paces to be qualified to be on the ballot, and want to get that done. We do have some people who've shown interest, and we thank those people for coming forward. So again, thank you for everything. Appreciate your involvement. And on behalf of the council, the staff, everybody connected with the city of Marshfield, again, I want to wish you a safe and happy and enjoyable holiday season. Thank you, and we'll see you next time on the Post-Council News Conference. This is Steve Barg, City Administrator, saying, have a great day.